Hello guys, Tom Yone here from Coding for Youth. Welcome to our Python series, and this should be lesson number 12 or lesson number 13. Okay, so we've been learning this Python from scratch, and of course, this channel encourages you to try a bit of code every day. No matter what. At the beginning it may seem difficult, but Python, is not that difficult because it's more very closer to like a normal language. If you speak English, like normal English language. So I want to encourage you, try a bit of code every day, utilize all the resources you have online, get a lot of wonderful videos that tutorials you can watch even here on YouTube. So I want to encourage you to try a bit of code every day. So we've been talking about Python variables, and in the previous lessons we concluded with Python variables. But today we're going to talk about something special, another data type. We're going to be talking about the Boolean data type today. Boolean data type. So we'll be talking about the Boolean data type today. But before we continue, before we dive into this lesson, which will not take, it's going to be a single video for just the Boolean data type. I would like to encourage you to subscribe to the channel and leave your comment at the comment section, like the video, and of course, if you keep on following this channel, we'll be discussing a lot about programming, not just Python. We'll talk about to be a full stack web developer, the things you need to know. We'll discuss that and then show you a little bit of how you can make money from online, right? Okay, so let's dive into our what we have for today. So today we are talking about the Boolean data type, and of course the Boolean data type is actually used to to check if an expression is true or false. So the Boolean will always return one result, okay, either true or false. In Boolean is virtually very is important in virtually all the programming languages. So we use it to check an expression if it is true or false. You can also use it to check a conditional statement. If it's true, you want to do a particular thing. If it is false, you also want to do another thing. It's very also useful in artificial intelligence. So you use it also to compare two values or expression. Okay, so it always returns either true or false. For instance, we can check the expressions like inequality. You can say, let's say let's say we'll say x is equal to 10, right? And we say y is equal to 9. Okay, so we can check. We can say print. If we do print x greater than y, like this, Control S and run. If we run this, you see the answer is true. This is just a little expression like an inequality. We say this is not a question. This is not more like a conditional statement, but we just want to print s greater than y. Since the value of 10 is greater than 9, you see it returns true. Similar thing we can do if we say if we just want to let's just print x. Let's check x is equal to now this is conditional. Excuse me. y like this. You see that this is not an assignment operator. We'll talk about operators in a very short while, very soon. This is not an assignment operator, but a comparison operator. So we want to check if x is actually equal to y. You see, it returns false because 10 is not equal to 9. What about if we want to check if, let's print x is less than y? Of course, this will also return false because 10 is not less than 9. Okay, so we can also use this to run on the conditional statements. For instance, an if statement. The answer, and you want to do a particular thing if after comparing two values. So you want to do a particular thing if it is true, or do another thing if it is false. For instance, we still have our x and our y. If we come here, we'll talk about a conditional statement also in a very short while. So we want to come here and say if x is less than, or let's say if x is greater than y, we want to do something. We want to print. We want to say x is greater than y, right? S, we say s prints y or x is less than y, like this. Okay, let me use lowercase. We have this lowercase here. Okay, so if we run this, of course, the first print statement will be executed, because what will happen here first, Python runs from top to bottom. It will check, first of all, if x, it will check. Remember that x is a variable and it has been assigned a value of 10 here, right? And y is also a variable, it has been assigned a value of 9 here. If we don't give any assignment to this, if we don't declare this variable here and we use this here, it will return an error. Okay, so now what we're going to do, you're going to check if x is greater than y, and of course we want to print this statement, s is greater than y. Otherwise, or else, we want to print x is less than y. So the answer, of course, you already know what the answer is, because x is actually greater than y. So we say s is greater than y, right? So what is happening here, when we run this check, is going to return either true or false, right? So in this case, the first statement here, which is this if statement here now, will return true, and want to do something if true is returned, and that is to print x is greater than y. Okay, so another thing we can actually do is to evaluate use the Boolean to evaluate values and variables. We can use the bool function. Let me just talk about the bool function here now, like this, the bool function. Okay, we can use this function to evaluate value. Okay, and the answer always returns true or false. Okay, it always returns true or false. Now, for instance, we can check. Let me just leave the values variable I've declared there. We can print hello. This will return true, right? Because it's a string, right? Control S to save. it returns true. Okay, if we also print, let's say 20, okay, inside this, it also return true. If we print a number, say 30, it will also do what? Return true. What about if we print 0? What do you think will be the answer? We'll print 0. 0 should return false, right? Print 0, we have false. Okay. Um, we have tested this with a variable. If we print x, like this, it will return true, right? Because s is a variable that has been declared. What about y? The same thing. It will return true because y is a declared variable. Okay. Now I want to say something about the Boolean or the bool function. Most values always return true. Okay. Almost any value always evaluate or return true. Okay. If only it contains some content. Now any string always return true except an empty string. Okay, so and any number always returns true except 0. What about if we print -1? What do you think will be the answer? It will return true, right? It's only 0 that will return false. All the Python data types, the list, the tuple, the set, the dictionary, they always return true, except they are empty. So now let's say, for instance, we want to print an empty string here like this. This will return false because this is an empty string. Okay, it will return false. So I want you to take note of that. Very, very important. If we check all the data types, let's say you want to check list, dictionary, list rather. So if we have 1, 2, and 3, okay, this we evaluate to be what? To be true, right? What if we not have an empty list like this? Will this return? That's going to return false. If we print a tuple, let's say John, Andy, Cyprian, like this will return true, right? It return true. Bool rather, bool, yeah. This will return true. Sorry. This is going to be wrapped in another bracket like this. So it returns true, right? It returns true. But if we print an empty tuple like this, okay. Now the first inner bracket is a tuple bracket. The first inner parenthesis is a tuple parenthesis. Then the second one is for the bool function. So if we print this will return false, right? So we have false. Okay. The same thing with dictionary. Now I want the things you should take note of are those that return false. Okay. Now example, a false we always evaluate to false. Okay. All data types that are empty will always return false. 0 will return false. None will return false. Data type called none. Okay, like if you print none, that's none, right? let's check bool or none. Okay, so if you come here now and check, it will return false. Okay, if we check it on, if we check bool on false, bool on false, this should also return false, right? Okay, so all empty data types return false. 0 returns false, none returns false, and false also return false. Okay, now there is another object that also return false. We talk about objects. Remember, Python is an object-oriented language. We have the learn self. So let's say we have a class. This is actually advanced, but let me just discuss it. So let's say we have class. Okay, let's say my class. I will say def learn self. Okay, let's say return 0. Right, so if we come here, my object equal to my class. I want to print bool of my objects. Remember what we did here, I will explain in a short while. So say bool of my objects. I'm going to stop this and run. Okay, there is actually, we're supposed to, come like this, because it's a function, right? This, you see, it's evaluate to false. So this is actually a Python class, and then we run inbuilt self learn. This we always return false. Now what we did here is to create an object from the class. Okay, and since it is an empty class, you see it evaluates to false. It evaluates to false. Another thing is that most functions, you can use it to return a Boolean value. Let's just talk about that. If you have a function, let's say func, let's say you have a function like this. Okay, you can actually return either true or false in the function. So if you come down here and run this function, you say print func, this will return what? What do you think it will return? True or false? True, of course. If you have false here, it will return false. Okay, so you can actually execute code based on the answer that you get from your Boolean and a function. Okay, we can say let's say in this case now we have this function, and this function returns false. We can come down here and say, we can declare if statement, and we can say if func, okay, we can come here and we can say print true, or we can say print ex or s. We can come here and say print no. Okay, so if we run this, Of course, no will be printed. Why? Because this is false. Okay, this is false. What if this is true? Yes will be printed. Right? So we see yes printed. Now, I want to point out that Python has many built-in functions that return a Boolean value. Okay, one of such functions is the is instant function. Is instant. We use it like this. If you say, we can say in this case we have we can say print is instance. Okay, we can say x in this case now int. Of course, this will return is instance int not int integer. Okay, this will return true. Why? Because x is an integer. Okay, it's an instance of an integer. So what about if we come here and say string? This should return false, right? So it should return false. What if we wrap this like this? What do you think will be the answer? The answer should be true, right? Should be true. So use this instance to check if a value or a variable belongs to a data type. Okay, so I've spent so much time in this lesson. So I would like to end the class here. That's all about. That's I'm going to be talking about Booleans. Okay, so I thank you guys for staying around and watching the video to the end. Please subscribe to the channel. See you guys in another lesson.